Right, so today is the Saturday the 20th of February, and yes, this is the same jumper as I was wearing down the Chesil back in September last year, but it has been washed since then. What I thought I'd talk about today was to do a little bit of maintenance on my beach reels, and as we are deep in the lockdown, as many a landlocked inland sea angler will know, we're all hoping perhaps to hear some better news on this Monday. Maybe we might get a little bit of a relaxation on restrictions. We might be able to travel to the beaches again, but until all that happens, there's a few things that we can be doing at home with our gear and that, and I thought I'd just go through this to show you what I do when I'm cleaning my reels, my fishing reels. This is not my casting reels, but my fishing reels. So here we go. Well, for a start, these are I fish with on the beach, on beaches, on clean beaches like Chesil and that, and the South Coast beaches. I fish with bait caster size reels, 6/500 size reels. Yes, well, I'm kind of a little bit of a traditionalist. I should have upped my game by now to have something like Pen Fathoms or 525s, which I would like to get a pair of. But I'm still the kind of angler that likes a small reel for distance casting, and I'm still quite happy to pump and wind, because I know with the more modern reels now, you can actually just stand in one position and just crank the handle. Fair enough, you know. So these reels are pretty old now. These ones go back, dated back to 2004, and they're a Brazilian reel, believe it or not. And this one here has a power handle on, and it's made by a company called Marine Sports, if you can see that there. When first time I went out to Brazil to visit my wife's family, the first time I went out, I saw these reels and I thought that they are exactly the same, nigh on the same as the old Daiwa Millionaire 6HMs, of which I had loads of spare parts at home and that. And so what I thought I would do was I would buy these two reels, as cheap as chips out in Brazil, bring them home, convert them, and then have a pair of new 6HMs, seeing as the 6HM probably went out of production, I suppose, in the early to mid 90s as the 7HT took over. So yeah, they are 6HM, they are 6HM type reels. It's a spindle spool with, believe it or not, 2 red plastic brake blocks, which are the biggest ones you can get in there, but they cast fine. So I'm going to show you this particular reel, taking this one apart, and it's purely taking it apart for cleaning, and I'm going to show you its little cousin here, which has a normal handle. As you see, I keep my reels in old socks. It helps dry them off in transit when you're packed up fishing. It also gives them some soft, I don't know how you say it, bit of protection in your tackle box or in your rucksack. So this is another Marine Sports, and this is with a standard handle, a bit like the 6HM. I've lost the cap that covers the nut there, the pinion, well, to say that the actual retaining nut for the handle that went, you know, I think about a year or so ago. So I do have to keep on top of these reels to keep these functioning, running fine. Right, what I'll do, I'll set the table up now, ready for cleaning the reels, and we can see the process what I go through. Okay, and the cleaning equipment, sprays, whatever that I use. Okay, right, see you in a bit. Right, we're back again. So I've just laid the table out for you to see the bits and pieces I use for cleaning. So let's just reverse the screen. Can we do it here? Right, okay, fair enough, we can't do that. So bear with me a moment, and I'm going to now reverse the screen, and you'll be able to see exactly what we have here on the table. So a bit of the old WD-40, got some brake cleaner, and we have here the old TG's Rocket Fuel yellow label. I think it's quite gloopy. I use it anyway in my fishing bearings. Whoopsie daisy. So you got a crosshead screwdriver, and you've got a blade or spade screwdriver, how would you pronounce it, but it's a flat standard screwdriver. I have a little pot here. This is one of those little old hotel stroke restaurant type marmalade breakfast pot things. You get marmalade and jam in. I've had it since the 80s, so mum must have got it from somewhere. They are breakfast marmalade. So that's good for cleaning the bearings in, and any little bits and any little components you want to wash off using your brake cleaner. Okay, we will have a little talk about this brake cleaner, because it does leave a residue, but I would say I'd be more concerned with cleaning my bearings for my casting reels using a different technique, but for my fishing reels this does the job. Yeah, and I've got some insulation tape. So what I've got to do now is I've got to remove the shock leaders off the reels, and then take the spools up, and the bearings, when I'm going to clean the bearings and anything I need to clean with, I will use this kitchen towel, and yeah, it's absorbent, dries stuff off, does the job. Rightio. Right, in a bit. Right, so come back in from taking the dog for walks. Dark outside now. This is take 2, believe it or not, because the first one that I filmed, you couldn't see me cleaning the reels properly. So here we go then. So I've removed the shock leaders and taped up the spools on both of those, as you can see. What we're going to do now, open up the reel and just loosen off these thumb screws. I can do the thumb screws with my finger and thumb, but it's just a little bit easier with this. Okay, so we take off the drive plate, or the drive side of the reel, like this. Here we go. Popping down there. Take the spool out. Okay, and those red brake blocks on there, I'm going to slide those to the inside so I don't lose them. Yeah, amazing, isn't it? I'm fishing with 2 large brake blocks. Well, the cast guard, right? Let's put that to one side. So there's what you get generally. You'll get corrosion or crud around the inside of the cage here. You get it, and the worst place to get it, of course, is where the reel foot is. So if you see those 2 rivets there, that's what holds on the reel foot. And I have seen, and I do know, that if you don't look after that, after an amount of time, maybe 2 or 3 years, one day you'll be on the beach and the reel drops away because the reel foot literally cracks away from the frame, and it just snaps because of the corrosion that's gone through from the rivets. So yeah, look after your equipment. As I say, I bought these reels in 2004 in Brazil, and I converted them because of course they were a bait caster. They had a level wind, so I cut off the top bar and took out the level wind gearing and replaced that with this solid bar. So yeah, I mean, I've still got the reels and they're still catching fish for me, or helping me to catch fish, shall I say, which is good. So look after your gear, because it will look after you. Right, so what we'll do, we'll have a little bit of WD. The reels obviously have been cleaned since September last year. In fact, I did a session on Chesil in October just before the second lockdown, but they've been cleaned, and obviously I think I must have had a go at them as well with the WD as well. But the thing is, you can clean your reels, and I will always clean my reels either the day I come home from fishing or the day after, and I will run them under cold fresh water from the tap in the kitchen, cold water, and I'll get a toothbrush and I'll get the old washing up liquid, and I'll put it on toothbrush just like you would toothpaste, like that. When the reel's all wet, then I'll scrub all the soap into it so it all lavers up around the reel, and then I wash them off. And I'll do that several times, but there's going to be probably once every 2 months or so, I'm going to give it a more detailed clean like this, because you will slowly in time get a build up in the places where you can't get to with a toothbrush. So it's good to strip them down like this. I haven't taken off this palm plate side. That really is quite protected in there. You do find a tiny bit of corrosion in there, but generally you're pretty safe. But if you want to, perhaps once a year or perhaps every 6 months or whatever you want to do it, if you're worried about it, you can take that palm plate off. Just 3 little screws there, and you can clean on the inside of that as well. So what we'll do is put a little bit of Doobie Watsits on here, like so. An old kitchen towel, give that a good old scrub round there, around where those rivets are, like so. The underside of the conversion bar, around the side of the cage like that, and in there where the spool fits in, and then into the race where the brake blocks rub. So that there, if I point it out, you can see it, that there is a race, and the brake blocks will run inside that, not necessarily rub against it, because you have a little bit of end float. You will. It's always best to have a tiny bit of end float on your multipliers, so that the bearings are given the reel will run at its best, and that it's not too tight, and then you get your better casting, so the reel will be freer to run for you. Always have a little bit of end float. Even on my casting reels, they've all got a little bit of end float. But obviously tuning a reel for tournament casting is a bit different to any of this here, okay? Because you can buy different braking systems you can add to reels, completely modify them, buy specialist cages, winding gears, all sorts. In fact, you can. It's like Formula One, really. It's of the fishing world, or I would say with multipliers is tournament multipliers. They really, and all my tournament reels I have to say, will never be used for fishing. No way, Jose. Right, I'm just going around there, those bits and pieces, perhaps a little bit more there, like so. And the WD will spread around as you're cleaning it like that. A word of caution: your hands will get very oily doing this. Do not touch your line on the spool. If you're handling the spool, either by the edges or pick it up by the tape. You get oil on that line, my God, yeah. And you'll put it. Oh, I must clean that off, or I'll do that another day, or whatever. And you think you've cleaned it off, and you go down the beach, yeah. It's the obvious will happen, you get a thumb slip, lead goes off down the beach or goes diagonally across into the surf, and you think, oh, that was a crap cast. Well, obviously it was, because you couldn't hold the spool. Yeah, you have to look out for things like that. On this side as well, you often will get the corrosion or the crud all around here, so we'll give that a little bit of a clean up. and I always put a bit of WD in the where the thumb screws come through, like so. Just being as gently as I can with it, like so. Give that a good old clean out. Now in there is a bearing. There's one of the bearings. The other bearing is on the end of the spool because it's a spindle reel, you know. And these are they are an exact copy of the old 6HM. So they are set up the way that Dyer was set up their spindle spools, by putting the bearing on the end of that spindle on the palms on the left hand side of the reel, and on the right hand side the bearing is set inside the housing of the drive gear, like so. It's good. Check for any other little bits. Might do a little bit around here. These power handles are quite substantial. It might be a good idea to put a little bit here because there is a kind of rivet going through into the plastic there. We will do that. I'll make sure before I start squirting all over the place. Yeah, move the spool out of the way, Neil. You know. Was it do as I say and not as I do, isn't it? Right, here we go. Come on, push the bloody button. Thank you. Like that. Good. It goes like so. So that's what that one is done. Now there's always a bit round the top here as well. You can see it. You put it down, you think it's done. That goes there. Right, let's have a look at this one. Now this one I lost, well, I didn't lose, but the covering cap came off because basically I sheared the grab screw that holds the covering cap. Now because I look after the reels now, I can deal with that. I can leave that nut exposed. It's tightened down nicely, but hand tightened down. It's not torqued or anything. And it holds, it does the job fine, but I've got to be extra careful because I've got to make sure that because this is all exposed now to corrosion, and there's a bit of corrosion in there. Okay, so we'll undo these, and like so. And that's it. And take these off. The other thing about its handle, it's not a power handle, so there's two rivets here. So it's good to squirt those up and get there. And because this type of handle is more exposed, because these little handle pieces are more exposed with the open ends like that. So yeah, get oil in there, and give it a good old clean. Like so. Put that there. Spool in a safe place. Same thing again. Brake blocks, slide the brake blocks to the inside like so. Put that out of the way. Again, same places where the reel foot attaches to the frame, where those rivets are, and all around the frame. So, especially where the reel foot attaches. That's good. Again, where the old thumb screws come through. So and we will do bit on here. And then a little bit in the handles there. Another thing as well, when you're squirting the handles, make sure that, again, before you go fishing, that's pretty much dried off, because you're going to wind with those, although you're probably not going to, depends on which hand you cast, whether you're going to cast up position or down position. Again, it's probably going to put some oil onto your hands that might go on the bait. That's not a bad thing, because some time ago, back in the 90s and the early millennium, people were using WD-40 on their mackerel strip, and they might still do it to this day, because it's vegetable based, but it gives off a nice little scent. You think you're polluting the sea with oil, but actually it does actually give off a nice little scent, and it does attract the dogs, you know. There we go, the dog fish, of course. Here we are, done all that. Right, so the next scene, we're going to do the bearings. As you see, the bearings on the right hand side, the bearing is in the gear housing, like this, on the drive side, and on the left hand side it's on a spindle spool, as you see, like this. It's on the actual spindle, because these are set up the same as the old 6HMs. So we'll remove those and then we will clean them in our little pot. So that'll be the next scene. Right, see you in a bit. Right, okay. Oops. Right, I just had dinner, so I'm going to finish this off now and do the bearings there and there, just to show you, really. Right, let's have a butcher's think. So, right, you may not see this, but I'll try and show you close up if I can. There is a circlip. So there's a circlip. There's a circlip on the end of the spindle here, on the left hand side of the spool, that holds the ratchet gear. Okay, we need to remove that little circlip, take that ratchet gear, and then we can take the bearing. Bearing just slides off. Then on the right hand side, on the drive side of the reel, there's this plate which I've got to remove, and then I can ease the bearing out. You can see that there. Sure, if you can, should be able to. I'll take that out, and then we can wash them and oil them. Yeah, right, great. Here we go. What I'll do, I'll bring the camera in now just to show the ends of the spools. All right, so let's go and bring you in a bit closer. Oh yeah, put the chair out of the way. Try not to fall over. Right, bear with me a moment. Right, let's have a look. So, okay. Can you see that on there? Tiny little circlet on there. You might be able to see if I bring it a bit closer, get a phone a chance to focus. Yeah, bring it back a bit. There we are. Tiny little circlet. What we've got to do now is try to remove that. Okay, so I'm going to use the flat of the screwdriver, and I'm going to push. I can do it. I might have to get my, yeah, I will. Right, let's have a look. There we go. Traditionally, for this removing of this circlip, I always used the little reel spanner that came in the box with the reel, and this is the one that came with my old 6HMs I used to have. So here we go. Excuse me for a moment. It's not that easy to do. You've got to kind of here we go. Get my thumbnail on one side of it and push hard with the other side, and now you should be able to see I've slipped that circlip off the end. So we just pull that off, take off little ratchet gear, and when you remove your bearing, remember which way it was sitting on the shaft, because well, there was a notion back in the day that was kicking around in the 80s and 90s that steel bearings would wear the race in one direction. A bit like old brake shoes on rear drums would wear one way. You'd have a leading edge and a trailing edge with the brake shoes. Well, with the bearings, if you're taking it off and it's been spent months or years running in one direction, and you put it back on the other way round, you won't necessarily get such a, well, I don't suppose it's going to be so smooth, but through tournament casting circles, the idea was that when you remove the bearing, you always put it back on the way that it came off. Anyway, but that was back with the steel bearings. So these are steel bearings, and so there it is. That's a little steel bearing there, and I've actually removed the dust shields off these bearings. This is again, that comes from the tournament field, because you know, we like to remove dust shields to make it easier to clean our bearings, but I've done it with the fishing reels as well. Something I never used to do, but it does make it easier to clean them. And if you are regularly looking after your reels properly and regularly cleaning, then the idea of not having a dust shield on there shouldn't really concern you. If you were not regularly cleaning out bearings or cleaning the reel and that, maybe you'd think, well, okay, fair enough, I won't touch the bearings, I'll leave them in factory condition. Then yeah, fair enough, and you could cast them, you could fish with them as they are. But if you wanted to change the oil, then it's going to be much easier to remove the dust shields. But once you've removed the dust shields, I don't think I've never tried to replace them. I can imagine that being a nightmare because the circlip is so small. I'm going to do another video on removing dust shields on bearings for these multipliers, and we'll do that with one of my tournament reels. Yeah, so it's so easy for me to clean that out because the whole thing is you can look right through it. There's no, the light shines right, so there's nothing that can get trapped in there. And I can also tell which way I removed it, because on this side there's a little bit of a different format to the inner bearing race, and then on the other side it's different again. You can see all the ball bearings in there, but you can't see them so clearly on this side. Okay, so let's give that a little clean. So he'll go into here. I will use the dreaded brake cleaner that leaves the residue, because it is only a fishing reel. And then once they're cleaned, then we'll re-oil them with some of the yellow Doobie What's It. So here we go. Right, let's give that a little swirl around. So the reel is not going to be used on the field for casting. it's meant to be reliable to allow you to cast, recast, 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 cast after cast every 15-20 minutes, change your bait, cast again. Reliability is what you want. You don't want a reel that's going to be blowing up on you or threatening to blow up in your face all the time when you're fishing. You want to be able to almost cast, release a spool and forget about it until the lead hits the water, and then just stop the spool and then let the spool run on to let the line off to allow the lead to hit the bottom, and then for the lead to dig in before you tighten up. Walk back to the rod stand, peeling line off as you walk back to the rod. But I'll go through that. That's another video. I'll tell you what, it looks so simple, but there's a lot that goes on in beach fishing. There's a lot that goes on. Simple things that you might not know about and someone else knows about, and you wonder how they're getting away with that, and you're not. And it looks like they're doing the same as what you're doing, but it's not. They're doing some small difference which makes a big difference. Something small that makes a big difference. Right, here we go. Get that out. Right, let's get my little bearing doobry. So here I've got a little wire, and on there I've got tape on. And what I can do with that is just take the bearing out like so and stuff him on there, spin him up, and I know that's clean. So yeah, spin it the other way. Definitely. There's a little test we're going to do in a minute, and I'll show you something. Right, so now we're going to take the bearing out of here. I'll just use a little crosshead on here. Remove that plate. It's another thing as well, the tablecloth is actually a nice thick towel. Nothing bounces on the towel, so it doesn't bounce off the table and go on the floor and get lost. It's a simple thing to do. Right, next job. Get this fellow out. Just in case. Oh, there he is. He's come out because he wanted to come out. Pop that there. That's pretty. I mean, I can't see that that's really dirty in there, so I'm going to put that in there. And this bearing is slightly larger diameter to the other bearing. But still do a good job. Obviously, when you go fishing, you want to know that you can go cast after cast, reach the distance you want to fish at, be able to leave that bait in the water for at least 7 or 8 minutes to give the fish a chance to find it, register the bites on your rod, and know that the next time you reel in, you'll be able to clip on your new rig, trace, whatever you want to call it, already pre-baited, 2-patting like I said in the other video, cast out again, and you just keep following a pattern. And then the other rod can do different distance. You can alternate distances between the rods, so you have the other rod at a short distance, one at long range, until you find the fish. And you don't want to be worrying about your reel. Reel has to be something that automatically works for you. Right, let's get that. There we go, squeeze it on there. If I can, I'll tell you what, we will use. Can we use that one? Not that one. What can I use for that? Can't remember what I used for that. Let's find something. sometimes you can listen to a bearing and you can hear which side is smoother when you flick them over. Which gives you an idea which way it's been running. Right, I'll put these bearings, I shall reassemble them. There's an opportunity here actually to just clean out some of that WD that went into there. Right, popping back in there. Just clean that plate off. Now this is the fun bit, because it comes off easy, but it doesn't go on back on so easy. It needs to click into place. There we go. Right. Pop that. Come on, Mr. Jones, sort it out. Here you go. Come on, you twat now. There. Can't do it, Sean. I have to do it my way, facing me. Can't do it cack-handed. Alright. Right, so the plate's on there. That retains the bearing in there, stop that coming out. Little screw there, and it goes behind. It just clips into that little rivet there. Screw goes on there, and of course the plate's in position, holding the bearing in, like so. I'm going to put the smaller bearing on the end of the spool. Now you'll see how the spool reacts without the oil in. In this way, you know you've got all the oil out. Put that circlet back into place if I can. Right, now then, putting the circlet back on, push my thumb against the opposite side of it, put all the pressure on the back of it, and yeah, ain't no hay presto at the moment. Here we are. Right, and a little click noise meant that it's gone back on. Right, now we're going to put this back together, and you'll see the reel without any oil in the bearings. It doesn't go that fast, believe it or not, because of what it is, but it does spin, and it's noisy without oil in the bearings. Warning, you're being recorded by a security camera. Whoa. Right, okay. Come on, get a screw. Right. This won't be impressive at all. It's not a tournament reel. There's no, I'll just check the end flow. So to check the end flow, disengage the spool. I don't know if you can hear that. That's a Nat's cock play in that, and that's adjusted by the spool centralisation knob here on the side here. Okay, here we go. Get a better one than that now. It's got a rasping noise. I'll tell you what I'll do. A bit more freedom. A little bit more. So they're not fast at all, but that will be, that's with no oil, it makes a noise. Right, okay, let's go and take bearings out, put some oil in them. If I cast that now, after a few casts I bloody ruin the bearings more than likely, just having brake cleaner in there. Oh, and another thing I can do as well, before I take the bearings off, let me just remove these brake blocks as well, just to show you. You saw how slow that was then. Let's just see what happens now without brake blocks in there. Let's have a look. Just do 2 screws up. Yeah, it's not noticeable because it's not being cast. But without those brake blocks in there, I would blow up, I would. Even though there's no speed to the spool. Right, put brake blocks back on. 1, 2. There, right, take off that circlip. Like so. It's falling on the spool. Put that down there. Now we're going to put one line, give it another clean out. Place that there. Let it dry for a sec. Take this out. Should come out like so. Okay, give that another clean. Now that is getting a little bit dirty in there now, so I'm going to put some fresh brake cleaner in there. Throw that on the floor. Put that in there. Okay. Just going to try that again. Let's see, should I do that? Let them dry for a bit. Put some oil in there. They're spinning up free. Right, that's good enough. Oil. So got the bearings on the towel. There and there. Turn that one around so it's there. And I noticed that nice and clear. Just to show you again, throw it in the bloody thing, stick it on there, and give that another clean. Anyone think I was cleaning my bearings out for casting? Cry. But clean isn't clean until it's clean, so there you go. Yeah, you can argue that, but it's true. Here we go. Sorry it's taking a bit of time. Oh, that's better. I'm going to put this back together again to see if I can show you that difference again. So I'm just going to stop the film for a moment, put this back together again, spin it up, see if we can show you the difference before I put the oil in, because we couldn't get it first time, and so I did give them the second clean. There looks to be a bit of a difference there now. Let's have a look.